So Girish, there's been a lot of discussion, especially US has branded now product-led growth, what we call PLG in the recent times. And suddenly, I'm seeing startups, companies talking about it a lot. But I don't think there is much understanding right now, which is commonly understood, right? So let's try and demystify what PLG is. So from your perspective, how do you really define the product-led growth?
See, I think it's in very simple terms, right? If you think about, see, product-led growth is all about business. It's not about product, right? So it's product-based everything. So if you take a typical business, you want to get leads or acquire users, as you call it, right? You want to get people to come in as leads. You want them to try your product. So you want to convert them as customers, and then you want them to adopt. You want to onboard them successfully. You want to expand to other teams or other modules, and then you want to kind of retain them, and hopefully they won't churn. So you want to do all of this, right? In a traditional world, we used to do this through people. Product-led growth in the simplest terms is, how do you use product for all of this? Like, for example, freemium could be a way in which you acquire users, right? See, so most of the time, if you see in the previous SaaSBoomi sessions, we used to do product tear downs, right? We did not know this fancy term of product-led growth. So the correction that we should tell to all the people who are earlier attendees of SaaSBoomi is, the product tear down that we used to do is, we were looking at it from a product-led growth lens. We were seeing, is your website, how is your website designed? Can somebody come in and quickly understand what you have? Can they sign up? Can they start using it? So that is the easiest definition, is how do you use the product to acquire customers, to ensure adoption, to ensure conversion from trial to paying customer, and to even retain, to expand, all of that, product-based everything. Like using the product as the vehicle to drive everything. That's product-led growth.
And while we are at the definition of product-led growth, why do you think this suddenly becomes so important? I know it has been there in the DNA. We have been talking about it at SaaSBoomi, and other companies around the world has also been using it. Why suddenly so much of talk about it just in the recent times?
Yeah. See, I think if you look at the last 12, 13 years, it's not that product-led growth has not been there. It has been there, but it has been in pockets, right? For example, it used to be small tools. Like nobody really scaled to a big company, because the model, like, there are a few catalysts that emerged, right? Like, for example, Google itself, right? The ability to find a product online, Google changed that. If you're in 2003, 2002 selling software, like, most people did not know Google AdWords at that time. So you have to send your sales guys to go and look at customers. So then what that means is, if you're starting a company in the US, you will start with the top customers that you can get. Even if a company starts with mid-sized customers or SMB customers, they will go up market, because only the bigger, larger customers could do this. So we had this established model of sales-led growth, and all the software companies were the big software companies. So we had these pockets of, like, I can tell you many examples, but let's take some simple project management tools, like where we would go and seek out, right? But none of these tools became big. Like Basecamp is a good example. There is word of mouth. There is a category. It is not a corporate level buy. Somebody wants it, they can go and quickly find it and use it. So Basecamp grew through word of mouth, right? So, but none of them became like a really big success story, right? But what happened, the other important thing which I think in my mind happened was, it became easier to start a startup, right? See, with AWS and availability of venture capital and adoption of SaaS, and also the digital transformation of all businesses, SMBs, everybody wanted to use software. Earlier, only the big companies would be able to afford software. Now, with 37 signals, the model of, you can put a credit card and pay $50, $100 and start using the software. So all of these things came together. So which means a bunch of startups, there is a startup explosion. We are living through that. Now, starting a startup is easy, right? But scaling a startup is very hard. And see, if every startup had to hire enterprise sales reps and go after the large enterprise in the conventional model, nobody will win because large enterprises don't actually buy this, right? So this product-led growth emerged as a combination of all these factors where now I have a global market. If I can identify a nice feature in a nice category, and I can get some word of mouth, I can get the product. Like the best example to understand this is Slack or Zoom, right? Like, so there was a new category, meaning, or in Zoom case, it is an existing old category, but a superior product. And when I use it, or Dropbox, like if I cannot use it alone, I have to invite others. So the more people I invite, the more people want to use it. So I think it became a nice model of scaling. So it's a new model of scaling fast and very efficiently. So I think really what's happening is for all of us in startups, we have to understand that scaling as an enterprise growth startup is actually harder. And Manav, we have done that at Eka. But scaling with product-led growth is another alternative where we can go fast because the market is big. If the opportunity is unique, if you can generate some word of mouth or use freemium to bring people in, if the product execution is superior, we'll talk about all of that. But I think that is why it's become popular.
Yeah, I
Sorry
agree.
for the long-winded answer.
No, it's okay. I agree. I think you have hit the nail on the head. I think in addition to explosion in startups, I think there's also a massive adoption by the users. I think users are looking for with smartphones, mobile, and every single workflow. The way I think is, I think that every single workflow in an enterprise or a SMB will get cloudified. When you do that, we're looking at from payment to invoices to even collaboration to email itself, right? So since everything is getting cloudified, I think therefore the adoption is mass, and therefore the opportunity is also extremely big. So that leads to me, into your area of really core expertise. So is there different in the product design? So what are the top 3 things you do different? If I'm starting the company today, when I have PLG in my mind, I have spoken to you, spoken to the experts, let's say read the books. So what are top 3 things you would advise people to keep in mind when I'm doing the product design at the very first day in the organization, in my startup?
Okay. See, as I told earlier, see, product-led growth is a strategy. It's a business strategy. It's not about only product design, but design plays a very important role. Your question is about product design, right? Or
yeah, for example, in product-led growth, we're talking about keeping end user in mind, right? Typically,
yeah,
when you do a sales led, right, the end user is in mind, but not the main focus, right? So when we say keep end user in
yeah.
mind, what does it mean?
So I think you have to look at product-led everything, right? Like break out all the functions. Let's take product management, take design, take marketing, take sales. So each one of this is different. So for example, if you start with product management, you started there, right? So if I'm going to sell an SAP or an Oracle or an Eka software, I have to build the value prop in the product. The features that I will build is for the CEO and the VP and the CIO, right? But if I'm building for the end user, if I'm going for product-led growth, I have to build for the end user because the VP and the CEO are not going online and searching for product or signing up for a trial in most companies, unless you're a really small startup, right? So, which means you have to you have to solve for end user pain. Like how do I, if an end user is doing the same task 100 times, so one of my features could be, okay, I can use canned responses. I can do bulk updates in help desk, for example, right? So those are the features that people like in their world. Like, for example, we in Freshdesk, I will give you an example. Like we actually had features where we can say, okay, if a conversation is going back and forth between the customer and the support agent so many times, we can automatically escalate to a supervisor. That resonates so much with the user because they are living through that. So you focus on these kinds of things in product management. In design, you have to make the product aesthetically beautiful and make it intuitive and easy to use. Because if you're building an Oracle apps or a Salesforce, you will design the product assuming that a certified consultant is going to implement it. In product-led growth, you have to design assuming that someone is coming via the browser. In the first 2 or 3 minutes, they have to like the product. That's why aesthetically being good is important. They have to see that fit and finish and polish and craftsmanship and feel that, hey, this looks like a good product, I can explore more, because otherwise they'll close the browser and go. And then if they decided that, okay, this is worth a look, then in the next 20 to 30 minutes, they should feel that, hey, it also looks easy enough for me to configure. I'll tell you, one of the telecom companies in India, startups, like the first screen, as soon as I signed up, it actually said create new DTMF or whatever, right? So as a user, I didn't even know what is DTMF. Apparently, it is dual tone multi-frequency or whatever. It is the IVR configuration, right? So the minute I see that, I close and go away. So design has to focus on, it has to know that the end user should be able to do it themselves. Now, maybe in a larger company, even if that is there for Freshworks product today, we have onboarding teams and partners to implement, but the customers love it. The fact that it is actually, they can also do it on their own if they want. So that is design. Think about pricing in a sales-led, on the website, pricing on the website, right? In a sales-led growth, you will say contact sales. In a product-led growth, you want to put a pricing page. You want to show what is the pricing, because a lot of times, if you see the customer journey, they go from homepage. You may have a big sign-up button on the homepage, but they will go to the pricing page. They want to see, okay, what is the price? Is it $100 or is it $10,000? And then they make a call to sign up, right? Okay, somebody is honking. I don't know. It's a nice new feature from Zoom. Are they asking me to shut up? So, so that is on pricing, right? So if you think about product marketing, so in sales-led growth, you would actually send white papers, right? You will write white papers. You're not showing the product. Nobody went and downloaded trial of SAP and started playing around with it, right? Good luck with that. So you will have white papers. You will have salespeople in suit going and selling, as opposed to imagine how Slack or Zoom came into our companies, right? See, today Freshworks probably spends, I don't know, $2 million with Zoom, right? But no salesperson of Zoom ever came initially, right? So the product just grew inside the company, and finally we did one enterprise contract. So there's no salesperson who's coming in. Slack, for example, our CIO couldn't even choose between Teams and Slack, because Slack was already pervasive inside the company, right? Now we have to think that Salesforce is acquired if you want to change, but the point is, Slack was already in all this. So finally, they just have to come and consolidate, right? So there was no choice to go and look at any other tool. So imagine being an enterprise salesperson in Slack. You don't have to go and knock on doors. You just have to look at all the freemium users, which big companies are using it, how many users are using it. Oh, 30 different teams are using in Freshworks. Okay, let me call Freshworks CIO and say, hey, 30 different teams are using it. Do you want to focus on your information flow? Okay, let's consolidate. Here's the bill, right? So everything, function by function, you have to understand that product-led growth has to be differently done. I'm not saying, by the way, I'm not saying product-led growth is better than sales-led growth, or sales-led growth is better than product-led growth. I'm just saying we have to understand and design accordingly.
No, absolutely. And also, I think I'm glad that you said, because Microsoft ultimately, was ahead of Slack before Salesforce bought it, right? And they used their enterprise penetration to actually outdo Slack in many ways as far as the Teams product is concerned. I think the coming back to the key point, I think the basics of product-led growth is that if you are starting the company today, or if you are pivoting your company to a product-led growth, then you have to think through every single function. So it's a business design more than just the product design, right? So you think about all the function and see how every single element is being used to focus on
very critical. Very critical is, first is bringing people to the product. Second is, during the trial, how can the product help? Like, for example, there is no point in putting all the videos on the website because once somebody is signed up, they have moved from your website to the product. So the current in product-led growth, product marketing has to work inside the product, not on the website. They have to work on the website also, but a bulk of the work has to be done inside the product. Like, how do you use the onboarding? How do you use the videos to educate the customer on why they should think about it, or what are the best practices? Everything moves inside the product, right? So even think about LinkedIn, for example, how LinkedIn nudges us to add your education, move your profile completion to 90%, add another work experience, make it 95%, like endorse some of your friends, your profile will go to 98%. So it's all product-based nudges, right? So upgrade to premium. Like for example, if somebody is checking out reports, like how can I use my enterprise reports feature, which is not available in the plan, but I can give a sneak preview to the user to say, okay, click here for advanced insights and analytics. And then they click there, I show this report or a sample report and I say, hey, by the way, this is not part of your package, but if you want it, you should contact your salesperson or click here to upgrade and buy. So even though you're packaging your plans in a certain way, you have to selectively expose. That is how upgrades work in a product-led growth function, right? And another example I would say is, I just lost the train of thought. That's fine.
Yeah, I think there are some also very good companies to start recently, right? Calendly and Typeform, and Figma, which has used so various other companies are starting today, which are good examples to actually look at how product-led growth can be taken forward. So are there any products or business models or businesses which are more suited to product-led growth than others?
Yeah, I think if you really look at it, I think the one keyword is you have to make your software or product valuable for a team. So any software where a team can buy on their own, that's the best fit for product-led growth, right? So like, see, for example, I can't use Zoom by myself, right? At least I have to use with one more person. Or if I'm using project management software, or I'm using, so there is corporate software and there is a team software. So Jira is a good example. An engineering team can actually buy Jira and use it amongst them. So I think even if you're thinking about, see, a lot of times I see startups have this big, broad vision, right? Like they want to go and build everything. But what they have to understand is in an enterprise, having this breaking in, if the surface area of your product is so large, there is so much friction in a large enterprise that you can't actually go in and replace everything. You need a wedge, you need a spear to land, right? So which means you have to find out one team within that enterprise, what could they use potentially, and then build that as a product, and then make that as a product-led growth wedge. So maybe eventually your vision, you can land a lot more. But so the keyword I would say is make sure you can build something that a team can use. Think about InVision, think about Canva, right? So basically, if a team can buy on their own without corporate approval, that is brilliant. And if the category is either well established, then you can do freemium or Google AdWords and get traffic. If the category is new, then you need a lot of word of mouth and virality. Like for example, yeah. So we know virality. So Zoom and Dropbox are a great example. Slack. See, I cannot use Slack on my own, right? I have to bring all my team members. So every one person who wants to use Slack for collaboration, they add 10 people, right? So, and then one team is using it, then the other team sees it. Hey, these guys are having fun, right? They're collaborating nicely. Then I also have to come in. So that kind of virality helps. So the keyword is, how do you build your product to bring superior value for one team to do their job better? And in our case, in Freshworks, if you look at help desk, right? Or if you look at CRM or IT service desk, CRM is more of a corporate buy in many companies, right? It's very hard for product-led growth. In SMB, it's probably easier to go. Sales team will look for a CRM, but in many larger companies, CRM is a corporate buy. But help desk, like a support team, sometimes it's a corporate buy, but in many cases, a team will just use a help desk for ticketing, right? They may even have something else for the customer support, but they want ticketing is a smaller, a well-defined problem. So I think you have to understand and find those value for the team.
So ideally, one workflow, one team, and which is a beachhead to large company, right? In a nutshell. So there's also an interesting question on the same topic. So is there an upper limit of ARR when you think about product-led growth? Is there any range which is more suitable? In sales-led growth, it can go from 75K to $1 million and above, right? It doesn't matter. But in product, from your experience, Is there any upper limit, or is there a range which is more suited for product?
So you mean ACV, right? Not ARR. You mean
Yeah,
ACV.
ACV.
Okay. See, I think generally, okay, the most important thing in product-led growth you have to understand is the buyer has changed, right? See, in a sales-led growth or in a traditional world, it's the CEO and the CIO and the VP who's buying. Now they have bigger budgets. They can do $1 million deals. They can do $200,000, $300,000 deals, right? And then we had an era where even before product-led growth happened, you have the software for teams where managers were buying. Like good example is help desk or IT service desk or HRMS or like functional siloed buying. Right now we have marketing automation, so marketing teams are buying. So when the buyer is the head of the department or a manager, then that brings a price point that's suitable for like maybe say 50K or whatever, right? So they may still have to get some approval, but they will have some budget for them to operate depending on the size of the company. Now, in product-led growth, you want to make sure it's easy enough to start. So it should be usually a per user pricing, right? Because it's see, if I'm a team of 10 people and I'm buying InVision or Slack for 10 people, ideally I should start for free, and then I should be able to add on users. So the real power comes unlocks when more and more users, the entire company uses it, right? So product-led growth in a HR or a collaboration world has a lot more land and expand potential than like for example a fresh desk or a fresh sales, because it can only expand within one function, right? But still yeah, so the pricing should, the ACV should be designed around the buyer.
Yeah, what a team can decide, what a typical team can decide, so they don't have to go through corporate approval, so that it is frictionless. So basically PLG means frictionless. So lesser the friction, faster the growth is going to be. There's another dimension which is very interesting question come from the audience on the same dimensions. I'm going to ask you now itself. There's also traditionally, if you look at it, companies have spent money previously in the enterprise software, not really SaaS, was automating their mission critical workflows. Now in SaaS, we're also seeing a lot of big companies which are, just because everything is cloudified, so it may not be a mission critical, but still people are adopting it. So do you think PLG is still applicable when the workflow is a core part of the business of the company? It's really, really mission critical. For example, the audience is asking core claim processing engine for insurance company, for example, or I can give you a lot of traditional examples. So what do you think of that dimension?
So I think first you should answer that, because you are in that.
I will answer. Yeah. So we are in the industry where we are in mission critical software, right? So in mission critical software, the most important piece to understand is that when something is mission critical, it typically touches more than one department. Like in claim code processing, it will be actuarial services, there will be risk compliance, there will be the actual processing departments. So it makes it extremely hard for you to traditionally to think about PLG. But now I think with the new age way of adoption of software, like expense management, right? It was considered as the core part of a CFO office. It got cloudified. Now we're looking at the treasury pieces of software, where one full function, CFO, which is a very big function, can be cloudified, right? They're all traditional industries. So I think if you go with the landscape that can my workflow, decision making, which is the point you were also making, can come under one business head, I would go for it. I would start small, iterate it again and again, and then reach to the right product fit in terms of adoption by the users in that particular department. If the decision making is going to go across, 4 departments, 5 departments, it's going to get very hard. You would definitely need some nudge from the salespeople, and the sales cycles are going to be longer. So I think the answer also lies in the sales cycle, because adoption, sales cycle all have to be balanced to get to that.
Yeah, so I will add on to that, Manav. And in our world, mission critical is inside marketing or inside sales or inside support, right? So don't think, again, this is where I think a lot of founders make a mistake. Everybody starts with a grand vision, right? But you have to get there eventually. Like Ashwini also is here. I know how she started and what she's doing now, right? So the vision initially can be like really, really big, but you have to focus on one particular area and solve that problem well. Like for example, let's take CRM, for example, right? Say like if I want to, what is mission critical automation inside CRM? I can take a component of it, right? Like, okay, I have deal scoring or lead scoring, right? So like there are companies like Infer, they may not be product-led growth, but you can actually build something where if it becomes a popular category, everybody will use it. Maybe you can think about Yesware for email tracking, right? Yesware scale to millions of dollars of revenue, or even Calendly for that matter. They just focused on a small problem, right? Like, okay, can you call it mission critical or not? Maybe Yesware and Calendly
I think
won't be. Yeah.
I think here the mission critical is actually, there are two parts of mission critical. One is what you were saying, mission critical within a function like sales or marketing. Here, mission will talk about mission critical to the business of the company. For example, logistics, right? If you're a transportation company, logistics is a core part of your actual workflow, physical workflow, right? So when you convert that physical workflow into SaaS, the decision making far more complex, because in a core workflow, there are many more departments who are the stakeholders. So
Yeah.
it becomes a bit harder. So you'll have to go through many motions to get to the
Right.
product adoption. Yeah, that's the main. So anyway, we'll move on from here. So what are there any disadvantages? We have been hearing a lot of advantages of PLG. So do you see, are there any disadvantages of PLG?
Yeah, of course. See, everything comes as a package, right? So, see, product-led growth, right? When you say easy in, it's also easy out. You have to understand that for any of us, right? How easy is it to cancel our Zoom account or Slack account or Trello account or Asana account, right? So we've all tried Asana. Like, how many of us are actively still using it? Or we've all tried Trello. How many of us are still using it, right? So you have to understand that churn is a big problem in product-led growth, because again, a combination of factors. When you make it super easy for anybody to come in, a lot of folks will come in. Serious users will come in, very small startups will come in, free users will come in. They will come in, they will pay for 1 or 2 months and they'll go, but you'll be spending marketing dollars to acquire them. So churn is a big problem. So if growth is super good, then you don't worry about churn. If your growth slows down, then your churn becomes like a big issue, right? That is one. The other aspect is your product execution has to be stellar. Otherwise, everybody will come in and then it's a leaky bucket. Everybody will go out quickly. So like the DTMF that I told you, right? So you may have a brilliant category. You may have a lot of word of mouth, or meaning people searching for the category and coming and checking you out. But let's say if the experience isn't great or people can't easily figure out, then they'll quickly leave. So there is a lot of in sales-led growth, you probably have exec level relationships, you have annual contracts. So if something happens, like if the user is frustrated, you have a year to fix the problem. You can go and send your customer success team and talk to them and so on. In product-led growth, you don't have any exec level relationship. You don't have annual contracts. Everything is month to month. One problem, somebody is frustrated, they can go and push the nuclear button and say cancel. And many times people do it out of anger also. So even there, we do product-led retention, right? So we remove that nuclear button to cancel and say, okay, talk to a retention person. At that point, we introduce the friction if you want, because you want product-led retention, not product-led cancellation, right? So, but
Yes.
a lot of these there are disadvantages. So.
Yeah, so the great point. I think so. I think more than disadvantage, I think it is the churn becomes really, really important. So basically, you have to look at your churn like your cash flow, right? You look at the churn on a daily basis and really understand, why churn is happening, how you can, mitigate the churn using the product. So that's the key here. So that also brings me to another dimension of this disadvantage, right? How do you think about the capital required to a product-led growth versus a older or sales-led model, right? Because do you have to invest more upfront and then the flywheel, and have to wait more longer to get the flywheel kick in? What is your experience there?
See, I think it depends on the company, right? So I think it depends on the competitive dynamics. It depends on the location. So speaking from Freshworks example, I can tell you that if you look at the amount of funding we have raised, right? We have raised 327 million of primary capital. So we have actually spent less than 100 million. Everything else is still in the bank, right? So we have spent 100 million, less than 100, to take the company to where we are. So one sense you can say is product-led growth is very, very capital efficient. And comparatively, look at Asana, they're actually losing a little bit more money, but still they are. The worst example for sales-led growth would be a company like Domo. They had to spend 800 million to get to
Zoom is
100
just a
million.
bad example.
Yeah,
Zoom
but
is
yeah,
just a
so
bad
we
example.
cannot. Yeah, it's a bad example. But I think okay. To be fair, in product-led growth, it's relatively, I think, relatively speaking, it's easier to go from 0 to 100 million, but much harder to go from 100 to billion. In sales-led growth, especially in enterprise, it's much harder to go from 0 to 100. But once you're at 100, it's relatively easier to go from 100 to billion. This is what Joe Sexton, the CEO of App Dynamics, told me, which is true. I think if you look at ServiceNow growth, right? After they hit 100 million, they just accelerated, right? Because enterprise plays are working well. But when you're early stage, small startup, getting into the enterprise is very hard.
I think I have a theory on this. I think I'm also talking to a lot of our audience are just starting right now. A lot of audience are below $1 million a year. I think India has a specific advantage now, especially in the post-COVID era, right? Because you can quickly build a product. Today, product building has become far more cheaper than it ever was. You can also iterate faster. You can also put a team which can look at all these parameters as you're suggesting on, retention, churn, is people in which part of the workflow you're seeing drop off of the customers, right? And also with virtual now, you can also do inside sales model or virtual GTM, early part of GTM sitting in India, right? So I think the cost advantage from a capital efficiency perspective is going to be far more bigger nowadays in PLG, provided if you focus, as you said in the start of the conversation, on the key elements of the design of PLG early on. So I think there will be a specific advantage that we will see going forward. So now, while we're talking about PLG and sales model, and we know it's not one over the other. So how does the hybrid model work? You just said, right, that PLG is really good from 0 to 100, and then from 100 to a billion, the sales set model really scales because playbook is done, the brand is established, the larger deal sizes, you're into large companies, so your scale comes relatively easier. So how do you see, at what point in time do you think, would you advise people, or in your experience, is the best time to switch? How do you run the hybrid model?
Yeah. See, I think it's a question of growth, right? See, for example, if you can grow to $1 billion with PLG, with churn being super and growth being like 200%, 300%, I would actually not do sales-led growth at all, right? Because having two strategies creates a lot of friction, right? Having one strategy actually makes it very simple, right? But unfortunately, churn is a real problem. Not having exact relationships, bigger companies will come and not see, and growth also in PLG can slow down because see, in PLG you're getting smaller deals, right? Everybody starts small. So unless you have a really quick expansion pathway like Slack or Zoom, you may not actually be growing so fast because churn is taking away on one end. Your deals are like say $500, $1,000, $200 MRR. So you're not really. It's like a treadmill. You can go from 0 to 1 million to 5 million to 10 million easily. But when I say easily, on a relative scale. But just continuing to grow with product-led growth, at some point you will find out that, hey, it's about product market fit. So I have the products. It is working in larger companies also, but people are coming in, buying in a department, it's growing. Now, why can't I go and land these larger accounts? Like for Zoom or Slack, they can just go and consolidate the account. For Freshworks, we start calling companies, we start sending out salespeople, we start doing events and so on, right? So it is hard in terms of the demands that it puts on the team, right? Like you have to make sure that on the enterprise side or mid-market side, you don't compromise on API coverage, customization, interoperability, integrations, all of that platform, all of that is needed. While on the PLG side, you want easy to use, easy to implement, and so on. Right? So, more importantly, so the way to do that. Okay, before I answer at what point, I am saying, I think at what point depends on the company. My simple rule is, if you're not worried about growth, I'm talking about say after 50 million or 100 million. So you can actually start going sales-led growth if product-led growth is working for you. Now, for a very early stage startup, you have to first make a decision on whether it's product-led growth or sales-led growth. And I feel for a startup in India, right? Sales-led growth, you don't going and selling to Indian enterprise customers is a completely different direction altogether, and you don't want that, right? And very early stage, hiring a VP of sales in the US when the CEO is in India, when the team is in India, that's also hard, right? So product-led growth on a relative grade, if you can adjust your product to go in, as we talked about, find the fit for the team and scale via product-led growth, it gets you the logos. See, the beauty of product-led growth is, I'll tell you, we did a PR at Freshworks saying Cisco is our 30,000th customer, right? And 2 weeks after that, we get Procter & Gamble as a lead. But Cisco, only one department of Cisco, Active Advisor, bought 10 users of Freshdesk, right? But we had the permission from Cisco to use them in the PR. So we actually did a PR saying, say, Freshdesk reaches 30,000 customers, and we said, okay, Cisco is the 30,000th customer, which was stretching a little bit, but it's fine in marketing. Maybe they were 29,997 or 30,002, I don't know, but you need that marketing flexibility, right? So when you, the getting those logos in product-led growth helps you because somebody else somewhere, like Honda New Zealand, was using our product. Honda New Zealand is like probably like a dealer, like meaning on New Zealand, Honda is a smaller company. But when you say Honda is using it, then a lot of other folks come in, right? So that's the beauty of product-led growth, is it helps you land those things. So I think,
yeah. I think the hybrid model could kick in during the expansion phase. So typically, PLG lends itself to land and expand. So it's brilliant for landing. I think at the expansion stage, one has the option to start using in outbound and getting into other departments if you're not creating other multiple products to expand, right? So there are various other strategies which could be explored after you land into the account. That's the way I would think about the hybrid model at some point in time when you can think about it. I think the interesting question is, we have seen now the growth role, like in a consumer internet companies. A lot of companies have the VP of growth or director of growth in SaaS companies now. So is there a different way you will organize the teams? Is there a difference? What is your experience on Freshworks? Is it a part of the product team? See, essential debate is it part of the product or marketing, right? So how do you look at that?
see, I think there has to be a lot of collaboration with the product team, right? How you structure the org could be, a lot of times in early stage startup, org structure is based on people that you have. Okay, you have to understand that you cannot get a perfect org structure in a startup. You optimize for the person and their skills. So, but having said that, product marketing for us is actually part of product. It reports into product, right? Because there's a lot of work, as I told earlier, that the website work also has to talk about product features. See, that's an important point which we didn't talk about. So on the website in product-led growth, we don't talk about too much about business value driver and so on, right? Because the end user is coming, they don't care about business value driver. They care about their features, right? So and so they want to know how it makes their life better. So it's a lot of features, and then inside the product marketing. In fact, I will tell you, but even for growth, right? Like let's say there is a demand gen growth marketer. For Freshworks, if you see, like we have a product switcher where you can discover other products, right? So that's an easy way to bring more leads, right? So if I have freemium products, I have Freshdesk users, they can, it's like a Google product switcher kind of icon where they can actually click on that and discover what other products are there and quickly click and sign up, right? So we are already spending so much on marketing dollars to acquire a customer. Once you have them, how do you introduce new products? So a lot of the collaboration has to happen with product. Structurally, you can't put everything in product. So for us, product marketing is within product. But demand gen, there is one person who owns all the leads and the new revenue and expansion revenue. Under that person, there's a growth marketing org and a digital marketing. So all of that. So I think org structures can be fluid, but definitely product.
I'm trying to ask the question. I understand, at early stages, obviously, you do whatever you have to do, hustle and get things going. But, we're seeing, I'm trying to get for audience, especially in the US companies, director of growth or VP of growth role is coming into being. So what is that about?
See, I think, again, speaking in an early stage, right? A growth hacker in a product-led growth company, I would say should, and we have said this, we should be working on the product to optimize sign up, for example, right? Like, see, how can I accelerate growth? Like, for example, do I have a sign up form in the website with 5 fields? Can I actually give a one-click sign up with LinkedIn or Google, right? Is it increasing my signups? Or like ChargeBee used to have one feature, which they removed now. There is no sign up, right? You can jump right into the product. They actually have a few throwaway versions of the trial. So like they remove that friction, no sign up, no email needed. You just go into the product, you will see one of the trial versions of the product, and then you can inside the product click something and say claim this, make this your own payment thing, right? So that's one way to do that. Another interesting idea that I was pursuing with our team was, like, rather than asking the person to fill the form, like if I can get them into the trial and then ask them to say, hey, who's the help desk administrator, who are your team members, at that point, but they think they're configuring the product, you can actually create them as a lead in Salesforce CRM, right? This is what a growth hacker will think in an early stage startup. Now, how can I actually see, and this is something that everybody should think about. You have to go and analyze your funnel. If you have a small funnel or whatever kind of funnel, sometimes you may see that, oh, you're getting 100, 200 signups per day, but you're only getting, say, 2 or 3 customers per month. What is happening in the funnel? Where are people dropping off? So growth hackers would worry about that. Like, for example, are you sending an email for them to confirm their email address, but then most people are not confirming it? What happens there? Like, a growth hacker's job in an early stage startup will be to look at all the stages of the funnel to see where the drop-offs are happening. How can I make sure more people are coming in, more people are trying, more people are adopting the features, more people are inviting. So every stage of the funnel, you check for leaks and you plug the leaks.
So what are the top 3 things that have worked for Freshworks in the context of PLG?
See, I think number one, we are our strong understanding of the user. Even before I knew the term PLG, we knew that our DNA was, okay, we picked the right from starting what product to pick, right? Customer support or CRM or help desk. We picked these broad categories because we knew that we can use freemium and we can use Google AdWords and online acquisition to drive traffic to the website. Our understanding of who's coming to the website, predominantly either departments or SMBs customers, they are coming to the website. We knew that it's an end user. Our marketing language on the website will be very feature-ish. Our pricing page will not say contact sales. The prices will be laid out clearly. In fact, if you go to the Freshdesk pricing page now, you can see there'll be a view detailed pricing. If you click on that, we'll say, hey, there's nothing here. We are customers too. Like, we don't like to nickel and dime. So there'll be a smiley. So these are all things that we do to say, show that, hey, we are friendly. We understand how the end user thinks, right? So it's not the VP of a large enterprise may think like it's only $1 million, it's cheap, right? But the guy who comes in, he's afraid that, oh, the price is $50, but what is the hidden cost, right? So we our understanding of that buyer, the design aesthetic, you have attended sessions with Bharat on product tear downs, the intuitiveness of focus on how to quickly get the customer to value. See, there may be hundreds of features, but we actually do an onboarding design where we will show the top 2 or 3 features. For example, in a help desk, somebody has to connect their email, support email, and get the emails flowing. And maybe I'll allow them to rebrand it for them to get a feel of their help desk. And can they start replying to their customer support emails from within the help desk, right? So the quick time to value, you may have 100 other features, but how do you define what is the 101 10% of the product that you want them to use so that you can kickstart that adoption? So I think number one, the answer to your question is our understanding of our user, our customer, was really, really strong, and we were able to align all the activities to get that. The second thing that we did right was, we used freemium also. The freemium has been a game changer for us. And then we actually replicated that with multiple products, right? We didn't stick with Freshdesk, right? We went to Freshservice, we went to Freshsales, we followed our customer. Like when we built Freshdesk at 2 years down the line, 23% of our customers were using it for internal IT support. So we said, okay, we can take the same help desk, but we know how to build internal IT, but we'll replicate the same model, right? And then we saw that the number one integration in Freshdesk was CRM, right? So but CRM in a Salesforce was a very enterprisey CRM, right? It wasn't suited for our product-led growth high velocity model. So we actually built a high velocity CRM. So that is the second thing that we did right. We replicated our model and built multiple products. So I think the third thing, as we are, it's not about product-led growth. What we are doing now is we are using the product-led growth advantage for our sales-led growth, right? Many times our larger customers actually like the product because it's intuitive, because it's easy to use. So we have customers who have said, hey, this takes you have to sign an SOW with ServiceNow and spend 2 months to make changes to the service catalog. With your product, it's 20 minutes, right? It's helping us win larger customers. Product-led growth is helping us win larger customers now. And what we are doing is even on the GTM side, we are bringing in customer success, we are bringing in exec level relationships, we are building in the field enterprise account manager. So our farmers look at large companies that have come inbound and they have started using Freshdesk. Maybe they're paying $500, $1,000, but our enterprise sales guys will now be farmers who are going and building a relationship with those customers to grow the account, right? So we're using the PLG advantage to land a lot of customers, but then we are using the sales-led growth to expand and grow deeper into the larger company.
No, perfect. These are the great insights I'm sure all of you can benefit from. And I think this discussion will continue in further more sessions that we'll do at SaaSBoomi. I have one last question for you, Girish, which is why we're doing this conference, right? So what do you think will take for Indians-based or startup in SaaS to go to 100 million in 3 years? I know you are the fastest so far in 6 or 5.5 or 6 years. What will it take for Indian startup to do there in 3 years? Given all the knowledge we have, given that we have far more templates, better talent pool, easier to build a product, India virtual GTM advantage. What is your take on it?
See, I think if you really think about it, a lot of things have to come together, right? So number one, you need to have an exciting new category. Like, for example, in a post-COVID world, I think the best example would be, I'm just saying here, like remote conferences, right? Like AirMeet or Hopin or Hubilo, right? So there is an excitement around this new opportunity where everybody wants in, right? So it could be an exciting new category like Slack. When they came in, the collaboration was an old category, but there was excitement around the product that everybody wanted in, right? Like because people see that this is new, this is hot, I want in, right? So, or like Notion and so on. So we need excitement around the category, and COVID could be a catalyst for education or for remote conferences, like how AI ML could be an area. So that is the broader. So you have to have this excitement in the market where everybody wants it. That is the first criteria. The second thing is superior product execution. Like you need to have the founders who really understand product-led growth as like craftsmanship in terms of delivering value to the users, superior design, great product experience, brilliant product execution, right? So I think either massive word of mouth or natural virality in the product that has to be designed. So people have to be talking about this product. See, that's why I think I like the AirMeet Hopin kind of thing, because so many of us are here, right? Today, if we had used Hopin and if people like the experience, 100 people are going to go and try it in their conference. Imagine that word of mouth and virality, or AirMeet for that example, right? So I think that is something that needs to happen, that either word of mouth or both, virality, word of mouth or both. So if that happens, it is not about Indian startups can get in 2.5 years, well, like which is the world record now, right? Slack went from 1 million to 100 million in 2.5 years. So, but before that, they spent 4 or 5 years. So we can do it faster. So,
no, I'm sure. So thank you very much, Girish. I think this was time today, but I'm sure we're going to continue this debate and discussion, and there will be a lot more learning from all the founders in the ecosystem. Thank you very much for your time today. So thank you, Girish.